Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to have a look at another collaboration beer. So this one is half Irish on the home side, Northern Irish to be precise, and half Welsh on the away side. Neither of the breweries involved in this one have featured on the channel before, so I think that should make for an even more interesting review, and it's always nice to introduce new Irish and Welsh breweries to you here on the channel. Now, the beer that we're going to have a look at today is a style that is gaining in popularity these days. It's one that I've not reviewed all that many of, but this particular example I think has some really nice adjuncts in it. So I'm very, very curious to see what it has in store for us. And I've not reviewed an example of this style in quite a little while actually, so we'll need to see how we get on. But hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head over to Northern Ireland for the home side. We're going to go to a little place called Warrenpoint in County Down, which is in the very southeastern corner of the country actually, and we're having a look at my first beer from Mourne Mountains Brewery. So this particular beer is called Moto Psycho Nightmare. It comes in at 8% ABV, and they're describing this one as a vegan chocolate and vanilla marble cake stout. In other words, it's a pastry stout. But yeah, this one is brewed in collaboration with the Waen Brewery, who are from a little place called Llanidloes, which is in Powys in the very middle of Wales if you look at the map. And yeah, they are meant to be a very good brewery. They've won a number of awards over the years, in fact. But yeah, I think this should make for a very interesting beer actually. I liked the sound of this one when I got it. So yeah, let's crack on then and see how we go. So first off, a couple of shout outs on this one because it is an Irish beer. First and foremost to Paul Rogers from Dalriada Imports. It's thanks to him that you guys are getting to enjoy this mini series of Irish reviews. Paul's been running this company for a few years now, and he imports a lot of lovely Irish beers over here to Scotland, and he is starting to export them down to England as well these days. So if you're watching from England and you own a beer shop, get in touch with Paul and he'll hook you up with some nice Irish beers. And the quality of stuff over in Ireland these days is great, and it's nice to see Irish beer getting out there a little bit more, because for a long time it was pretty much like gold dust actually. So try some Irish beers. Shout outs as well to two of my beer tubing colleagues, Thomas McCarthy of Window Beer Reviews and also Brendan Sewell of Views on Brews. Both very nice guys reviewing Irish craft beer a lot more regular than I am, so if you're interested in Irish beer in particular, then they are the two that you want to follow. Go and give them some love. I'll try to remember to put the links to their channel in the video description below. But yeah, let's crack on then and see how we go. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the breweries involved here before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery websites, the link to my other reviews that I'll do in the future, both from Mourne Mountain and from Waen Brewery. Very first time I'm trying a beer from either of these breweries, so hopefully, as I say, we can add more to that list in the future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for both the Irish beers that I've done for you, both from the North and the Republic, and another list for the Welsh beers that I've reviewed for you. Those are being added to whenever I get the opportunity, but not as regularly as I would like normally. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then, to tell you a little bit about Mourne Mountains Brewery first off, since they are the home brewery in this case. So Mourne Mountains Brewery, as I've mentioned to you already, are based just outside of a little place called Warrenpoint in County Down in the very southeastern corner of Northern Ireland, and the company was founded back in 2015 by Conor McGreevy. So he comes from a background in construction, and this has been his family trade for a number of generations apparently, but before he started up the brewery he was running a property maintenance business. But basically he was inspired to get into brewing his own beers, having grown tired of the macro beers, and he also wanted to share his love of the Mourne Mountain area by creating a beer using the very pure water that they have there, the naturally soft water I guess we could say. But the original brewer at the brewery was Tom Ray, so he had over 30 years of experience, and he was with them until June of 2021, but he's now been replaced by his understudy Gareth McGivern, who's been with the company since 2018, and he has a background as an engineer, but he also has his IBD qualification, his International Brewing Diploma. But the brewery is based in an industrial estate, and they produced their first beers in this premises in May of 2015, yeah, May of 2015 they produced their first beers there. But they run a 10 hectolitre brew kit, and they're hoping to build a tourist tap room next year in 2022. But as of December 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 65 different kinds of beer, and most of their beers are apparently named after some of the different rock climbs in the area. So yeah, a very, very local brand. They remind me a little bit of Fine Ales actually in some ways. They like to name their beers after kind of local things and stuff like that. But yeah, they seem to be quite a well thought of brewery, so we will need to try some of their more regular beers, I guess we could say, over the next little while, because this is one of the more kind of random and quirky out there beers. So yeah, I'll have a look and see what else we can find from these guys in the future. But yeah, a pastry stout will be quite an interesting introduction to Mourne Mountains Brewery. So yeah, keep an eye out on the channel for more reviews from these guys in the future. But that's all I can really tell you about Mourne Mountains Brewery for the moment. A special thank you to Connor as well for giving me the information on the brewery to share with you guys in the video. So yeah, hopefully you enjoyed it. But if you want to learn more about this brewery, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on. And you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's crack on then. And we'll go to the Welsh side of things then. So the Waen Brewery. So the Waen Brewery was founded back in 2009 by husband and wife team Sue Hayward and John Martin. So they'd both homebrewed since a young age, so it was a natural progression for them to start their own company, and their favourite styles are apparently porters and stouts. But the original brewery was based in Penstrowd, if I'm saying that correctly, probably not, near Newtown, which is right in the middle of Wales, as I mentioned earlier. Then a few years later in 2012, having outgrown that facility quite quickly, they moved down the road to Llanidloes in Powys. And that is even more central in Wales, actually, if you look at the map. But over the years, they continued to build up their brewery capacity, create new beers, many of which went on to win a lot of awards. But they used the moniker Hellish Good Beer, and Sue, in the early days, was one of only 2 female brewers in Wales, which is quite exciting, of course. But a few years later, in 2016, they decided to close down their own facility and start contract brewing their beers. And these days, their beers are brewed at Tatton Brewery in Knutsford, which is to the south of Manchester over in England, and Sue is now working in sales and marketing for a few different companies. She's worked for Hopcraft, Team Toxic, and now she actually works for Mourne Mountains Brewery, hence why you've got this collaboration here. But as of December 2021, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 70 different kinds of beer, and there are a whole variety of different things available from the Waen Brewery, but I'm not sure exactly how many of them are still being contract brewed at the Tatton Brewery. So yeah, that's something I will need to look into at a later date. But yeah, that is all that I can really tell you about the Waen Brewery for the moment. So again, if you want to learn a little bit more, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all those different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's leave it at that for the history section of the video, and we can have a proper look at this beer. So yeah, just to let you have a little look at the artwork on this one before we open it up. As you can see at the top of the can, there is the Mourne Mountains Brewery symbol, which looks pretty cool, and at the bottom there you have the Waen Brewery symbol, Hellish Good Beer. In the middle there you've got your Moto Psycho Nightmare, 8% vegan chocolate and vanilla marble cake. But yeah, it looks very good. 440ml can, this one. I think it's quite nicely presented, I have to say. It looks like a rock face or something. I'm guessing that is like a rock face somewhere in the Mourne Mountain area. It's meant to be a special, a classified area of natural beauty, actually. I'm not sure if that's the European Union or the Irish Tourist Board or something like that. But yeah, plain silver top can on this one. But yeah, I don't know what this beer would have cost actually. It says on the side here that this one was canned on the 18th of March 2021, best before the 18th of December 2021, which I think is actually going to be a day before this one will publish, if I've got my calculations right in my head. But yeah, still an 8% pastry stout, this one. Let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. This should be pretty good. So again, big thank you to Paul for making this review possible. yeah, this will be my very first Irish pastry stout, either from the north or from the Republic. My first Welsh one, I think, as well, because I've never tried Stay Puffed from Tiny Rebel either, actually. I need to try a few more of their stouty type beers. But yeah, there we go. So that is the majority of the beer out of the can and into the glass for this one, but we'll put the rest in just a wee bit later on. So anyway, as you can see, this beer is poured with about a 1/3 finger of a frothy, I would say very light beige head. Maybe you could describe it as being fawn in colour. I'll just let the camera zoom in on that there. Still love the quality of this camera right enough for filming in 4K. We could film in 8K if we wanted, but I don't know if there is really a need to do that, but we'll try it sometime. But yeah, this one I think is pretty damn nice. So as you can see, the colour of this beer is pretty much, you know, jet black, dark ebony rosewood, however you want to describe it. But yeah, if you shine the light through it, it does have a little bit of that kind of Coca-Cola, Pepsi Max type edge to it. But one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little tiny ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. But overall, it does actually look pretty nice. So yeah, lovely looking beer, this one. But remember, the colour of your beer depends on, one, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, the length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any adjuncts that you put in and any barrel aging that you do can also affect the beer as well. But I think when it comes to, you know, imperial stouts like this, it's quite hard actually to change the colour of the beer. It's only if you put something like beetroot or something like that in it. I've seen that in a stout before, where that's changed the colour of the head and stuff like this. But yeah, just bear that in mind. You have to put in some really kind of powerful fruits or whatever to even think about changing the colour of these beers slightly. But yeah, in terms of what you'd expect from appearance wise from a pastry stout, this one really matches the bill. So I don't think we really have anything else that we need to say about this particular beer, to be honest with you. So let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with it. Very, very curious about this. Now, that does smell pretty interesting. It doesn't tell you anything about the beer on the side, of course, other than it's vegan friendly. But yeah, I think it's kind of interesting. Now, the one thing that I'm going to say about this beer, compared to other pastry stouts I've had, this one doesn't have that kind of typical granola type backbone that a lot of these beers have, and that, to be honest, was something that had put me off a number of pastry stouts that I'd encountered before. So that's another point of interest when it comes to this one. I think this one has a little bit more of what I would want from the style actually, so worth thinking about that. But yeah, the backbone of this one, it's a big kind of sweet, oily, has a wee tiny bit of an almost chemically type thing to it, so we'll keep that in mind. But yeah, a big kind of sweet and oily stout beer, this one. So I quite like what this one's got going on. But yeah, it does smell pretty damn nice actually. When you sugar it up, you start to get more of the kind of cakey vibes and things like that out of it, but a nice smelling beer. I'm looking forward to cracking into this. So let's break the aroma down for you a wee bit more then and just see what we get. So, backbone of this beer then, it smells like a kind of chocolate sponge cake, to be honest with you. That's what seems to be forming the absolute backbone of the beer. There are one or two little woody notes in there, a little bit of a smooth kind of nutty character, absolutely. Then you get a bit of that kind of you do get a little bit of the kind of cocoa powder out of this one. You can smell that sort of dry cocoa nibby type thing with this one. There's a lot of vanilla in there, of course, and when there's vanilla flavourings added into the beer, that makes sense. But it says that this one contains just oats and barley. There's no wheat in this one, actually. So that's worth noting as well. But yeah, I don't get too much in the way of breadiness out of this. I can see where the oats would come from, because you can smell a little bit of that creamy character, and of course the vanilla is going to mix in with that when it comes to this beer style. But there is maybe a little touch of brown sugar in this one, like a little bit of a kind of toasty McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of character. But yeah, it's not too big and heavy in terms of that kind of brown sugary side of things. So yeah, I like what this one has in store for, I like what this one has given us in terms of the aroma, I should say. But yeah, big sort of cakey backbone, like a chocolate sponge cake, a little bit of a woody, nutty undertone, sweet vanilla, and of course just a little bit of a kind of toasty McVitie's biscuit, brown sugary note. So yeah, that works very, very well. On the hoppy side of things, I don't think there's too much to report in this one actually. So you get a little bit of a smooth earthy character out of it, yeah, so I do like that, a little bit of a smooth earthy note in the back of the nose there. There's a wee touch of floral aromaticity, but I would say that overall the green component of this beer comes across as being very it comes across as being very kind of smooth rather than anything else. So a little bit earthy, a little bit herbal, wee touch of floral aromaticity, quite a wet floral aromaticity at that, I would hasten to add. And then you've got some nice kind of juicy, wet, grassy type vibes to the beer. So yeah, I do like how this one goes about its business, that's for sure. Yeah. It's green component is what you'd expect, but I mean, with these pastry stouts, they're definitely not the most hoppy forward beers. You have to remember that. They don't have a lot of hops in them, usually just a little bit. But on the fruity side of things, this one is quite interesting. I was looking at the can again, because I did wonder if there had been a little bit of a fruity adjunct put in this one, like a bit of fig or something, because it really has this big, oily, figgy quality to it. So that is very, very nice. So yeah. Yeah, so I think for me, this beer, it really has a mix of it's got a juicy kind of figgy character to it, a little bit of blackcurrant, and a wee bit of a kind of blackberry sort of thing going on. So yeah, I really like how this one, I do really like how this one goes together in that sense. But yeah, it's big oily fruity characters you're getting out of this with just a little bit of a lighter kind of candied sort of thing underneath. So yeah, a little bit of a kind of plummy raisiny note, wee bit of blackcurrant, and a more oily blackberry to this one for sure. So yeah, this beer goes together very, very nicely, in fact, in terms of the aroma. So a big thumbs up to Mourne Mountains for this one. So let's get the rest of it into the glass and just see how we go. So yeah, there we are. Just plop that back down. So yeah, as I always say, take a bit of time to enjoy that aroma before you get stuck in, but I think we've described it quite well. So this one is the Moto Psycho Nightmare, if I've got that right, Moto Psycho Nightmare, a vegan chocolate and vanilla marble cake stout. So yeah, this should be quite nice, from Mourne Mountain Brewery in Northern Ireland and the Waen Brewery in Wales. Slàinte, skål, cheers, yaki da. Here we go. It's quite interesting, actually. Now, these pastry stouts, they really do, I would say, that granola thing that you normally pick up in the aroma of these, as I said, you don't get that in this one, but you certainly get quite a little bit of that in the flavour of this beer. And as I've said in previous pastry stout reviews, I'm not sure how big a fan of that I am. And you can tell that this is a really well done beer, but there's, I don't know what it is, if the graininess that you get in a beer is like a little bit too toasted or a bit too dark, that tends to put me off a little bit. Actually, I mean, this is one of the reasons why I'm not such a great fan of a lot of English bitters, actually. And what I will say is that in my experience, this one is a nicely done pastry stout, but the graininess and in the base of the beer that forms the backbone for me, I'm not a great fan of that, and that's one of the reasons why the pastry stout isn't quite my favourite style. But I think the beer, it does mellow out quite nicely, and you do have quite a few nice flavours to this one. But yeah, I think it's going to take me a little bit of time to just adjust with this beer and see how we go. So as I say, pastry stouts, not my favourite style of beer, but I was quite curious to try this one. And it is well done, but I'm not 100% sure it's my cup of tea. Although I'm not English enough for tea, so I don't know why I say that. But it certainly has, it really does have some, outside of that backbone, I think it does have some really nice flavours to it. So yeah, like I said, it is a well done pastry stout, this one. So yeah, let's try and break this down for you then and just describe it for you properly. So, the backbone of this beer, straight away across the the middle and the back third of your palate, then you get that granola, grainy sort of thing there. And as I say, that is the backbone of this beer. Earlier on in the flavour, it actually feels a little bit like a kind of dry chocolatey sponge cake, so there's quite a little bit of that in this one. And then underneath that, you really have this. Underneath that, and then the further you go into the aftertaste, it really is just very much like a big sort of dry, rye, grainy vibe to the beer. So yeah, if we focus on that middle third of your palate, as I say, backbone is that really dry kind of rye granola type thing. It's like Brewed actually, which is a Swedish thing, this really grainy biscuit that you get. On top of that, a bit of a kind of chocolate cake, and then you get the sort of dry cocoa nibby character just sitting on top of that. Now I have found vegan chocolate cake can be very, very nice, but it's just a bit drier in its texture than the real deal, if we can call it that. But yeah, as you go toward the front of that, as we go towards the front of that middle third of your palate, you will get one or two little woody undertones in there. There is potentially a little bit of nuttiness, but yeah, the basic backbone of this beer, the granola type note, a little bit of the kind of more rye, grainy sort of thing, almost a little bit kind of cakey, if you like a chocolate cake, and then you get that dry kind of cocoa nib layer. So let's look on top of that actually and see what else we get. So yeah, on top of that, there is maybe a small circle in the middle of your palate there where it's like to me it comes across like a kind of toasty brown sugar. It's almost got like a little bit of a kind of like slightly chemically marshmallowy type flavour in it. It reminds me of some of the flavours you get in some of these Ben & Jerry's ice cream. It's just got that slightly chemically marshmallowy type thing to it, but in the dead centre of your palate you do get a little bit of a straight up sweet caramel in there. But the further you go into the aftertaste with it, and the further out you go from that dead centre of your palate, I think there's a wee bit more of a kind of like really toasty, biscuity, brown sugary sort of thing coming out of this beer too. But yeah, the further you go into the aftertaste with this beer, it's that big grainy granola type thing that pushes its way out of this one. So again, I find that really quite interesting, to be honest with you. But yeah, as I say, still not overly convinced with pastry stouts. I'm not sure how much of a style this one is for me, but I did want to try this, of course, when I saw it. So yeah, I think that's everything we need to say about the middle third of your palate in this one. But yeah, border region between middle third and back third of your palate. I think you get a little bit more of a kind of bready build up there. You can feel the cakiness is just a little bit thicker, but you get the same kind of things on the back third of your palate. The backbone of the beer is that big sort of Brewed, grainy granola sort of thing, and that's even more kind of bitter towards the back of your palate. You get a slightly thicker cakey layer on that back third of your palate as well, and a wee bit of dryness there. Then you can still get some of that cocoa nibby type vibe there as well. But on top of that, you've got the yeasty notes in this one. Now the yeasty character for me in this beer is like a really dry, almost slightly peppery, cakey kind of quality. It's almost got like that really highly caramelized, treacly sort of thing around it, and it's almost to the point where it's a little bit bitter actually on the back of your palate in that sense. So you can feel the yeasty notes just sitting on top of the kind of chocolatey part of the beer. But on that back third of your palate, you can feel that the flavour is a little bit taller, and as you come further forward, it just condenses down a little bit. Then as you move into the middle third of your palate, the flavours just squash together that wee bit more. So yeah, I like how that goes together in this one for sure. So, on the malty and yeasty side of things, I think the more that you drink of it, the sweeter it gets. But then the further you go into the aftertaste, yeah, that's when you get this kind of granola thing coming out from the pastry stout. And as I say, that's I don't mind these beers, but it's the aftertaste you get from them that I'm just not the biggest fan of. I love really big, bitter imperial stouts, like properly old school ones, and I do like the big sweet stouts as well. But the pastry stout, as I say, it's just a style that it's just compared to what the other end of this, what you can get at the spectrum from stouts, the big barrel-aged things, the sweet ones, the more kind of old school Russian imperial stouts, they just don't strike me in the same way, and that's just a personal preference. Beer is subjective, different people like different things, but yeah, as a style, just not the biggest fan of this particular style actually. But yeah, let's focus on the hoppy side of the beer then. So at the back corners of the palate, there is a little bit of earthiness there. As you move further forward, it does develop a little bit of a herbal quality, and as you push towards the kind of front corners of the palate, it does have a little bit of floral aromaticity, but it's not too bright a floral aromaticity. It is more a kind of smooth sort of thing. So I wouldn't be surprised if this has a bit of English hop in it, like like maybe a bit of Fugel or Kent Golding or something like that. I wouldn't be surprised if that's in here. It could also be something like Bramling's Cross, which would explain some of the fruity flavours you're getting out of this. But round the front curve of the palate, it's a little bit lighter and grassy, and again, the grassiness that you get out of this beer is quite smooth rather than anything else. So yeah, that's also worth bearing in mind. So let's focus on the front third of your palate then. I think, in fairness, I do like the hoppy side of this beer and the fruity side of it. I think the fruity front third of your palate is quite nice. So I hasten to add, I might seem as if I'm knocking this beer a little bit. I'm going to say straight away, this is a really nicely done pastry stout, and I'm pretty sure if you like this style, you will enjoy this example of it. As I say, it's just not a style. It's just not a style for me, I don't think. Maybe I need to try a few more of them, but yeah, I felt this way about the other ones I had as well. But yeah, on the kind of the front third of your palate then, and the fruity side of the beer, the border region between that front third and middle third of your palate, again, there's a little bit of a bready build up there. Then the base of that front third of your palate is that dry chocolate cakey sort of thing. So yeah, I do like the way that goes together. Then sitting on top of that, you've got that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just kind of roll their way out of the beer. So let's look at that. And one thing I will add is that in that cakey border region between front and middle third, that's where you get a lot of the vanilla. So yeah. Yeah. On that front third of your palate then, the fruity side of things, at the back of that front third of your palate, you get a little bit of a sharper kind of raisiny quality out of the beer. But then underneath, there's also a good little bit of, you do also have a nice bit of that kind of oily, plummy sort of thing as well. But then the further forward you come, you start to get the more dry kind of datey element. Then there's a little bit of a more oily fig again. And then as you move into the front half of that front third of your palate, you can feel it's like a little bit more of a dried kind of black currant. And on top of that, you've got the sharper blackberry. So the fruity side of this beer is quite nice. There's a fair bit of depth to that. So yeah, compliment them on that. The front third of the palate in this beer is really very, very nice. Yeah. So I think this one, for me, as I say, I think this is a nicely done pastry stout, and I can tell that from it, even though this is a style that I don't much enjoy. As I've said, I think the thing that really just puts me off pastry stouts a little bit is the sort of grainy backbone that they have, and they almost just taste a little bit chemical to me. I've had quite a few from the likes of Funky Fluid, and I forget what the Polish brewery was called that was doing these ones as well, and those are really, really highly regarded. They were doing pastry sours and pastry stouts, and I wasn't a great fan of the pastry sours either, actually. So maybe the pastry side of these beers, I'm just not a great fan. I'm not a great fan of that big savoury character that they have, to be honest with you. I think if it's an imperial stout for me, as I said, big and roasty, or big and oily and sweet, that's where I would want to go with this style. So yeah, it is a good pastry stout, this one, but style not for me. I've repeated that a few times. But let's round off this review with a look at the mouthfeel then. So I would say with this beer, definitely mid-bodied. The carbonation is very, very smooth. It's a lovely slick beer. You can feel the cleanliness of the water in this one, so I can see exactly why the guys at Mourne Mountain are quite proud of the water that they have. It is really quite nice, definitely on par with the Swedish, Norwegian, Icelandic and Scottish beers that I've had. So that's probably one of the cleanest feeling beers I've had from Ireland so far, actually. But yeah, it really works. The malty backbone of this beer, as I said, it does have quite a bit of dryness to it and a wee bit of sweetness, but it does lean towards the drier and more grainy side of things for me. The hoppy side of the beer and the bitterness, it's a bit hard to judge this one. I've got a feeling this might be about 50 IBUs, something like that, but you've got bitterness coming both from the malty backbone and from the hoppy side of this beer, and I think the biggest component of the bitterness actually comes from the malty backbone and probably some of the black malt and things like that are in here. So yeah, again, that's another interesting point. But the fruity side of the beer has a little bit of sharpness to it and a lovely kind of juiciness as well. So I really like how this beer goes about its business from that perspective too. So this one gets a big thumbs up from me, actually. I really like the mouthfeel that this beer has. It really is it's got a lovely just kind of silkiness to it. I think that's a fair way to describe this one. So yeah, for me, as I say, I can tell this is a really, really well done pastry stout, and people who are fans of this style will enjoy it, but that style is just not for me. I don't like the grainy granola type thing that this particular style has. But having tried this one, it does make me want to try a few of the other beers from Waen Brewery and from Mourne. So I think I'll need to look at an IPA or a regular stout or something like that from both of them, and I know they've both got nice examples of those. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. So yeah, the Moto Psycho Nightmare, an 8% vegan chocolate and vanilla marble cake pastry stout from Mourne Brewery in County Down in Northern Ireland, and the Waen Brewery in Wales. So yeah, let's leave it there. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are, both from Mourne and from the Waen Brewery, and we will see about returning to these guys again sometime soon. Check out my social media, check out their social media, and I'll see you guys in another review very soon. Slàinte, skål, and cheers.